everyone, thank you for joining me again. I'm here in the studio working on another painting project for this year, which hopefully by the time this video airs, in this quirk of recording stuff a while before putting it out there, hopefully will be finished. So this is a celebration of finishing another painting project for this year, even though I'm still working on it at the moment. There you go. This is some skeletons for my skeleton army. And yes, I know I said I was not going to paint any more armies. I'm not painting any more armies. I'm just adding to the armies that I've already got. So I've already got figures lined up to add to my halflings. I've got figures to add to my goblin army still, even though it's huge. I've got figures to add to my barbarian army. I've got figures to add to my wood elf army. So yeah, I'm not I'm not leaving those armies alone and untouched. I am adding to them. But I'm not building any more armies. But these have a specific purpose. So my undead army has there are a few plastic archers and a few plastic skeleton cavalry from the famous, notorious, legendary skeleton army plastics box set, that original plastic skeleton set that Games Workshop released, that I think has not been surpassed in any plastic kit since. I remember building them back in the day when they weren't skeleton army, they weren't even skeleton horde by then. They were just the 4th edition boxed sets of, I think you've got 8, maybe 12 skeletons, so 3 sprues in a pack, and then you bought the cavalry separately and the chariot separately, and I had all of those for my undead army. Not loads of any of them, but all of them. And I remember building them and being very frustrated by building them, but then I still think that they're great. I think they're brilliant. Back in the day when the other plastics were not in any way posable, to have these very, very posable, like you could make every model absolutely unique, was just brilliant. Really, really well thought out design. And the joints, although yeah, as I've said, they were a bit of a pain to get to stick together. I don't think any more so than any other plastic kit, and I think partly it was just me being very young and not really used to gluing model kits together. But I think actually they're much easier to stick together than some of the spindly plastic skeleton kits that have come since, without being massively chunky and oversized. Like the 5th edition ones, I have got some of in here just to fill in missing skulls, missing arms and that, but they are much chunkier. They don't really look like you could find them on the inside of a regular 28mm human. So I think the proportions, they balanced quite nicely on these, and they're very nicely detailed figures. So yeah, I'm a big fan. But you may know that I'm doing the recreation of the 3rd edition big orange book table. I'll get a proper picture up on the screen, but this one by the Duke, Wayne the Duke Millard, who I've met. He's a really nice guy. He lives not too far away from me, which is somewhat surprising. So this table that's in the big orange book here has loads of the plastic skeletons, I guess because they had just come out at the time and they were they're quite cheap and easy to paint. So there were lots of them on the table. So if I want to recreate this table, you know, I did the scenery for my 40th birthday game last year. If I want to recreate the table for Boyle this year, then I need a lot of plastic skeleton horde skeletons. I didn't have any, and they seem to command a fairly decent price these days because, of course, they're the best plastics ever made. But a very good noble chap called Adam, thank you Adam, gave me a box at Salute this year. He said, I know you've been looking for these. I bought them wanting to do sort of scenery bits and pieces with them, but they're all made up and I don't feel like I can cut them apart, so you have them. And he gave me a box of these already made up, mostly made up, I had to replace a few arms, but already made up skeleton horde, which was very nice of him. Thank you, Adam. Perfect for what I needed. And so I'm painting these up at the moment. These are going to be on the table at Boyle. And yeah, they were already glued together, so I didn't even have to stick them together, which was brilliant. I'm painting them in much the same way as I have painted the skeletons in my skeleton army, my undead army. Obviously, I haven't painted skeletons for that for a couple of years now, so I had to go back to my notes and remember what colours and things I used, what the order was. And they're sprayed black and then they're dry brushed up through a number of colours up to a kind of whitish colour. But actually what happened this time round was I did not go far enough. I should have gone more to the pure white and done a very light pure white dry brush over the very top of them before I started painting in the shields and the weapons and all the rest of it. I didn't, in fact, do that because when they were just undercoated black, it looked like the bone that I'd got them to was light enough, and then I started putting in these very bright yellows and greens and realised that I needed to go much brighter with the white. So I'm now going, this is what I'm doing at the moment, now going in with my usual sort of highlighting technique of daubing some light coloured paint on the highest area of the model and then spreading it down, feathering it out into the rest. And so this is taking me quite a while. It looks nicer. It does look better than just dry brushing. And it's worth doing on a set as iconic as this. But yeah, I think I should have just saved myself a little bit of time and gone in with a lighter dry brush to start with. I always do this. I always don't highlight bright enough. If you've seen in person or on my photos any of my army miniatures versus any of the sort of one-off standalone miniatures that I've done for things like my Hero Quest set, where each thing is being painted individually, all of those individual things are much more striking in person, and I think in photographs, because the contrast from the light to dark is so much more. My army stuff, I tend to put 1 or 2 layers of highlights over and call it done, so they end up looking a bit kind of grubby, a bit murky, which I'm totally fine with. I don't want all of my armies to be massively bright and vibrant, but I think in order to read at a distance, that added contrast is really helpful, really useful. So I do need to learn and go a lot more bright, a lot more vibrant with my highlighting. I'm using Foundry acrylics here. I'm not diluting them. I don't dilute my paints. There you go. Heresy, I know. But one of the things that I've found with the Foundry acrylics is that they dry darker than they go on, which is not unusual. You know, most house paints and things will do that as well, but I find it quite noticeable with the Foundry paints, which is good because it means that when you apply a highlight, it's very obvious as you're applying it where the highlight is, and then as it dries, the highlight becomes more subtle. But what that does mean is that I have to then go back in with a brighter colour and re-highlight it to get that contrast that I want. So it's good. I just have to remember that I need to do it. The shields were already mounted on these figures, otherwise I'd do all the shields separately and then fix them on. They were already glued in place, and I'm not stupid enough to start chopping apart ready-made up skeleton warriors. But they did something interesting with the shield. So you know those little round shield boss things that the Skeleton Army sprue has on it. Those are here and in place on these figures, but they've actually inverted them so that the boss bit is up against the arm, and it makes a flat on the front of the shield, which wouldn't be the way that I would put them on if I were building that kit. I would put the boss coming on the outside because it's a boss, right? Or at least to my eye, that's what it is. But actually, in this case, it's been really helpful because it meant that we've got these nice flat areas that I can just paint the designs on. The designs aren't super clear in the book, but they are very definitely yellow and green, half and half, with sort of ace of spades motifs on. So that's what I've done. I've also done it on a few of their helmets and on the armour of the unit champions, which aren't Skeleton Army plastics. They are Alternative Armies skeleton figures, but I wanted a few characters in there. And I'm not sure about the helmets and the armour. It looks a little bit American football, looks a little bit Blood Bowl. But I really like the colouring on the lances and on the shields. I think it's a really bold, really striking colour scheme. And I kind of wish that I'd done it on the rest of my army. I'm not going to go back and repaint their shields, although it probably wouldn't take very long to go back and repaint their shields and things in with this yellow and green colour scheme. It's also the same colour scheme as is on my halflings, so I don't want it to be too dominant in the army. But it is what they've got in the book, and I really like it as a bold, striking colour scheme. There we go. Trying to think and paint at the same time. The wooden halves and things in the book, there are some scythe wielding skeletons that show off the halves quite nicely, and some of them look very orange and some of them look very pink, or kind of purplish really, which is a bit of an odd decision. So what I did was go with quite an orangey kind of terracotta base and then put a purple ink wash over the top of it, and it's kind of created this, it's not quite lich purple, it's more kind of warlock purple, I guess, if you're going by the old Citadel colours, but it's actually a really nice contrasting colour with both the green and the yellow, and I think it works quite well. It gives them a bit of a kind of evil touch to them. I wasn't sure if it would make them look a bit weird if they had pink weaponry, but actually it's got that kind of slightly sinister, wormy purple look to it, and I think that looks really nice. Again, that's very different to the rest of the army, but there are enough models here. There's a unit of 30 skeletons with hand weapons. There's a unit of 15 with scythes, the Grim Reapers of the book, and then there's 7 skeleton horsemen. I might draft in 3 from my previously assembled unit and repaint their lances and shields just to complement them and bring it up to a squad of 10. Maybe include a champion in there if there's one that I think doesn't look very Bretonnian-y, which there definitely is in my other unit. The other unit being the dead Bretonnians from the later Maison-Tal scenario, Duke Tancred's fallen forces. And yeah, so I may bring those in to round it out. So it is a distinct force as itself. So I've got contingents within the army already. There's the Dead Bretonnian force. There's the Dead Monks of La Maison-Tal. There's the Krells. I call them Krellingtons, but the Krell's horde. And then there's Adolphus Vemmer's horde. He's the Krell in the Warhammer Fantasy roleplay scenario. They renamed Krell and give him a slightly different background, so he's in the army as well. So there's already distinct factions within the army, so I think having another one that's got this bold colour scheme doesn't doesn't make too much of a difference. And they're going to have 5 bolt throwers. So these are also in the pictures in the rule book. These guys are being crewed by Alternative Armies skeletons. They're very nice. A lot of them are Chaz Elliott sculpts. They're fairly recent releases on their website. I don't know if they're re-releases. I assume they're not new sculpts, but recent releases. So check those out. Obviously, if you want to buy from Alternative Armies, yeah, that's... I'm not going to mix too much in the way of politics on this video, but you'll probably be aware of some dubious attitudes from the owner of Alternative Armies. I leave it up to you if you want to give them any customs, but they do produce some lovely models, so you might be willing to sort of swallow your liberal tendencies. But anyway, I leave that up to you. Anyway, they're very nice, and I'm going to put I've got these the skeleton bolt throwers from Alternative Armies. I'm going to put those on the top. They look close enough with a bit of bending to the ones that are in the book that I'm not going to hunt down the Citadel version. So I've got 5 of those that need to be painted up as well. So yeah, and then I'm going to do banners. And then I've got some other things to do for this book. I've got to paint some Disciples of the Red Redemption. I've got to paint some more individual snotlings. And then there's a bunch of other people who are also contributing stuff. So it should be good. It should be a fairly epic scene. And the idea is that we're gonna put the models where they are in the photos, try and recreate those photos, and then we'll line them up and see what kind of fight ensues. And it may be quite interesting. So that's where we are. And I'm going to crack on finishing these. Yeah, that's another project from this year sorted. Next week we're going to be having a look at Oakbound's Games Day. It was our biggest and busiest Games Day yet, and the 5th annual. Can you believe we've been running it for 5 years now? Yeah, 5th annual Games Day. Lots of people bringing other things, lots of other things going on, other sort of side games and things that were all Woods adjacent or Woods related. So I shall show you those next week. In the meantime, take care, and I'll see you again.